Aniket, please present the presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Presentation slide. The introduction slide.
Sir, do you guys want me to start?
Sir, just a minute. Sir, just a minute.
यार सर मत बोले यार, like you can call me Navin, that's cool. बहुत ज़्यादा बुरा लगता है.
Tushar, can you share your screen or should I do? Shall we start? Yes, ma'am, we can start. Okay. Good evening to one and all. I am Ms. Shraddha Mori, Assistant Professor from the Department of Information Technology, St. John College of Engineering and Management, Palghar, would like to welcome you all for today's webinar organized by our Student Association, ITSA, under IST and CSR Student Chapter. I welcome all the dignitaries, today's speaker, Mr. Navin Chaganti, faculty members, and my dear students for showing their interest in this webinar. I now request our respected principal, Dr. G.V. Mulkun, to address all the participants. Over to you, Principal, sir.
Thank you, Shraddha. Morning to Navin and very good evening to all the Indian participants on this particular webinar on how to crack interview, which is conducted at the right time when our students are preparing and when the job openings are happening and they are going through the phase of the campus placement. In fact, it is an appropriate platform to be addressed by none other than the young lad from US who has gone so many phases of facing the interview technique. Hope I'm privileged to address Mr. Navin as Mr. Navin only, instead of calling his full name, which is a practice in US. And this particular webinar will going to definitely help not only the final year students, but also the third year students and all other students, so that they themselves will be well equipped whenever they have an opportunity to face the interview. In fact, I take this opportunity to congratulate the Department of Information Technology, all the faculty members who have taken this particular initiative to have this particular kind of webinar. My another request to Mr. Navin, please try to emphasize on the data science and the scope of the data science. As I learned from your CV that you are from that particular background, which has got a wide scope globally. And try to also emphasize more on the fundamental aspects of the subjects in your talk. I feel that this particular webinar we have to continue not only once, more frequently. The follow-up of this particular webinar also should happen so that whosoever have participated, let us try to have a kind of mock interviews, both internally as well as by the externally, whenever their time permits, so that we are giving an appropriate outcome as well as output to our student fraternity. With these short notes, I thank as well as congratulate one and all and wish a good luck for all the participants. Thank you. Over to you, Shraddha. Thank you, Navin, for accepting our invitations.
Thank you, Principal Sir, for your addressing. I now request our Head of the Department, Mrs. Anita Chaudhary, to address the participants. Over to you, Anita ma'am.
Yes, Shraddha, thank you. Good evening to all the participants, my student members of ITSA associations, and special welcomes to the Mr. Navin sir for accepting our invitations within a short time span and delivering such a nice sessions to the students. Hope, definitely our students will get the knowledge from this type of webinar. And I have welcomes to all my faculty members and the students those are joining to these sessions. Okay, thanks to all participants. Thank you, Shraddha. Okay, over to you, Shraddha. Can continue.
Thank you, Anita ma'am. Now I request Ms. Aarti Chauhan, member of Information Technology Student Association, to introduce our today's speaker. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you, ma'am. A warm welcome and good evening to all the participants. Myself, Aarti Chavan, TE Engineering student from Department of Information Technology of SJCEM. So, I welcome you all to this virtual webinar organized by Information Technology Students Association under ITSE and CSI Students Chapter. I'm super excited to have you here. Excited about all the amazing conversations that we are going to have today. And today is a wonderful day. We have our special guest, and today we are pleased to welcome a very special guest, Mr. Navin Chaganti. He is presently working as a data engineer in New York at Adobe. Let me give a brief background about today's guest speaker. He has education in Bachelor's of Engineering in Instrumentation from Mumbai University in 2011, and he has completed his master's degree focused in computer engineering from University of Arizona in 2015, and he has 2 years of big data senior software engineer experience with KPMG in US, and he has delivered various tech conference talks like Snowflake Summit 2019 held in San Francisco, then at Snowflake World Tour NYC 2019 in New York, and at Adobe Tech Series 2019 held in NYC, and at Snowflake Summit 2019 held in Las Vegas. I know you all are keen to get started, but before we do, we all know that our colleges, we have to face interviews after our colleges in order to get the jobs. And cracking an interview is not a cakewalk, especially the technical ones. Whether you are a fresh candidate or someone with a job experience, it is extremely important that you should be able to impress the recruiters to get the job. And so, today, Mr. Navin will guide us with his expert opinions on how to tackle the interviews and the key valuable takeaways to help students prepare and ace their upcoming interviews. Thank you for your attention, and thank you so much, Mr. Navin, for joining us this evening, for taking out time for this webinar. And we really appreciate it. We are obliged to have him our expert speaker. So I request to audience, I ask that you give your full attention to Mr. Navin and help me to welcoming him to this meeting and gathering. So Mr. Navin sir, please continue our session. I warm welcome you sir for this session. Over to you sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a very warm welcome, and to be honest, I never got such welcome. I gave a lot of talks in US, but I never got such a warm welcome. And I'll be upfront. I'll keep this conversation. I'll keep this less of a talk and more of a conversation, and I'll make it a bit informal. So I'll be switching from English to Hindi or Hindi to English in between. Also, I'm really looking forward for all your students to interact and ask me questions. And don't worry about any language. If you feel comfortable asking a question in Hindi, Marathi, anything, just go ahead with it. And I'm just going to keep this more light. I was not expecting such formal setup, to be honest. But this looks great. So you guys have already introduced a bit about me. But I was having a chat with Shraddha. She, the way I know her, she was my classmate. And she was asking me to do a talk. And I've done a lot of talks in data science and data engineering is my core expertise. But from, I would say, past 6 to 7 months, a lot of people have been reaching out to me because they have got laid off, or a lot of people have lost their jobs in last, I would say, 6 7 months, and I've seen that, and I've never seen anything like this of this intensity before. So I just thought of doing maybe something about interviewing, and you might have a question like, "Isko kya pata hai interview ke baare mein? Ye kya bol raha hai?" And that's a very good question. But what I would say is, the reason I wanted to share these things is because I get a lot of emails, questions from, I would say, not only students from India, but also people from Stanford or Columbia universities, Ivy League universities here, to understand how to interview and how to land a job in, I would say, a top company. So I've been having these conversations, but I wanted to like generate a presentation on it. So just to give you my background, I have interviewed with more than 200 plus companies. And by companies, I mean companies, not interview rounds. So I've interviewed with more than 200 plus companies, around 10 or 20 in India, but mostly outside India. So I've pretty much interviewed with every company you can think of in tech space, and very few in core. So I've interviewed Facebook, Google, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, like, name it. So I have some sense of, understanding how this thing works. So I just thought of like coming with that approach and like giving something to you which will be helpful, especially during such time. But before I start, I would like to do a quick poll on, getting a sense of the room. So I've created a quick poll. I'm going to share that with you. And what I'll ask is if you guys can quickly vote. Thoda Indian Idol style lag raha hoga, but like it will give me a sense of like of the room, like what's like where you guys are coming from. So it's a quick poll. What happens in that link is I'm asking you to understand the room, that how many people are from computer science, electronics background, or mechanical or tech background. Mechanical or core background. So if you guys could pick something, and if you don't see your stream in it, just and it's a core stream, pick mechanical. If you have some electronics or electrical experience, pick electronics. If you're from computer IT department, click that, because this will give me a sense of understanding. I would say, what you guys are coming from, or where you guys are coming from. So you guys get that link? Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at the results. So like, I'll wait for like 30 more seconds before I start the conversation. Sweet. So I see almost 95% of the people are from IT and comms, and 5 people from other places. Okay. 5% of people from other. Okay. Okay, 5 more seconds and I'll stop it. Okay, let's go. So that, let me start. Screen. Okay, you guys can see my screen? Okay, I'm assuming you guys can see my screen now. Cool. So how to interview, right? I already done the poll, so I'm just going to skip. So the first, this is also one more poll I wanted to do, but I'll skip it. I just wanted to get a sense of like, and you guys can write it in the comments. I'm not going to do a poll about this thing now. Like, I just want to get a sense of like all you students, how are you feeling right now? Because it's a very, I would say, this is not normal, right? What's happening right now is not normal. How you guys will interview is not normal. How you guys are going to join the company is not normal. So I would like to get a quick sense of like how you guys are feeling, and I'll tone the talk on that. So if you could leave any comments or anywhere, that will be really helpful for me to get a sense of that. Okay. And yeah, just go from, if you're like really excited to graduate or, not so excited, just share that. That will be really helpful for me. So let's start with the whole process of how to interview. So when you go for an interview, like most of you guys will be either have interviewed right already, or you might be interviewing, in next 1 year. So like this is going to happen with you sometime soon. And whenever that happens, are you prepared for it? First question, right? And like, how does it work? How does an interview work? And how do you get picked for the jobs? So the way I see interviewing is basically divided into 4 sections. Okay. The first section is your introduction. Wherever you go, the first thing you do is that you're introducing yourself. Okay. And I'm going to be talking about that in detail. And then there's behavioral. I'll come back to behavioral. There's analytical. Analytical is basically the section where you are given a question that fill like airbus with ping pong balls, or divide a cake into equal parts which is already cut. Something like that. A witty question for you to understand or check. Key, like how can you put your logic, or how can you explain things, and how much logical reasoning do you have? So, and the third is technical. Technical is basically, the technical questions of the company interview. For example, if you are interviewing for a tech company or a tech consulting company, like it be Cognizant and L&T and stuff like that, they'll ask you like basic questions on technical, like object-oriented principles, or or a language or SQL or stuff like that. So that's a technical part, and the behavioral part. So behavioral part is actually very essential in most of the companies in India, especially because 70 to 80% of the interview is behavioral, and what happens in that is that they're really trying to judge. Do you fit into the company's culture? Like, are you the person they're looking to work with? What are your goals and stuff like that? So that's where they do most of the analysis. And so it's very, very essential, like just not to be technical, but also to understand this behavioral aspect of these interviews, and really work on it. Because I've always heard this, and I had friends during my time when I was graduating. They didn't come from, they didn't have very fluent English, or they didn't go to schools where English medium schools. So obviously they had a disadvantage, but they were very good at technical. And because the behavioral round was so long or so important, they were facing a very hard time to crack interviews. So I've emphasized more in this, I would say, session about a bit about the behavioral part. And then a bit about the technical part. And I'll be honest, most of my course is towards, or this presentation is towards computer science and IT students, but I won't discourage people from like these other engineering branches to listen towards it, because in the end, I'm going to share a journey of mine and how I went from an instrumentation engineering student to, eventually ended up in Adobe as a computer engineer or a machine learning engineer there right now in their research team. So I'm going to share their journey. So don't be discouraged, even if you're from like other branches. All right, let me see comments. तीन ही लोग के पास feelings है क्या? अच्छा, 2 लोग. Okay, they're scared and not excited. Okay, that's cool. So let's go to the first question of the behavioral one. So whenever you go to an interview, the first question the interviewer is going to ask you is, tell me about yourself. And this sounds like a very simple question, like, "Arey, mere apne bare mein to batana hai, itna ka mushkil hai isme." But like, it totally makes sense, right? But a lot of people do this mistake of not preparing this thing well. Okay, and most of the time, even me, this is how I used to be. Okay, I was not prepared for my first few interview rounds, and I stammered. One of the rounds I remember, I just spoke continuously for 10 minutes. And at the end of the answer, the interview was like, that was a lot to process. So I did a lot of wrong things there. And it's very, very essential to learn how to prepare for this thing. Because this creates your first impression. Okay. So let's break down what this question really means. So when the interview asks you a question that tell me about yourself, what's happening there is that he's not really asking, he doesn't really want to know your personal life story, or he doesn't want to understand like your personal details, ki kal kya khaya, tumko cricket khelna pasand hai. Like, he is not interested in those things. The thing he's interested there is that, can you communicate well? Okay, can you hold a conversation? Can you, Can you tell them what is important to you? What kind of what kind of direction you're headed, or what kind of interest do you have, and stuff like that, and which are related to the company, obviously. One of the, I would say, a quick example, like if someone asks me today, like, tell me about yourself. The way I say it is, I'll give you a quick example of how I do it now. So one of the answers I will say is like, hi, I'm Navin Chaganti. I'm currently working as a data engineer for Adobe for past 3 years. I've been working in the field of big data and data engineering for almost past 10 years now, and I have expertise in building applications to compute large scales of data and build machine learning applications on cloud services like AWS, GCS, or Azure. So that's the kind of introduction statement I usually do. Okay, and then it fits in great because I give him a concise answer on I give him a quick answer basically on understanding, like telling him my expertise, which helps me to build the path for a follow-up conversation. Saying then his conversation is like, oh, what have you built? And then that's how the conversation flows. And that's what I had as a pattern. I would say I'm using this from last, I would say, 5 years, and it has worked pretty well for me. But as looking through a lot of articles and a lot of YouTube videos actually recently, but I was trying to understand what will a new grad say, because I already have an expertise, I already have a domain, so it's easy for me to put it out there. It's really confusing. There's a lot of content out there, and there is no answer specifically tailored for students in computer science and how they can say things. So I've made few samples for you guys on how to say these things. Okay, this is not what you want to put out there, right? The whole game of interviewing is to play on your strengths and not on your weaknesses. Yes, there will be toppers. There will be people who will have more than 70%. You can use this format totally because this works to your advantage. But like most of the people don't have that. So for them, what I would suggest is add something else. Add something you have done in your projects or your specialization or a specialization you want to create or your projects or what you've learned from your projects and your interest in that. And just to give you an example of how I would do if I was a new grad right now with not having a lot of, I would say, good grades. So the way I'll put it is, so here's an example. So hi, my name is Navin. I'm an engineering graduate student in the computer science department. I am trying to specialize in data science, and I'm very interested in solving deep learning and neural network problems. Along with my degree, I've completed courses like SQL, Python from Coursera, and these various technologies have really helped me to build my final year project. So this is a really good answer for laying out the field of the interview to ask you further questions on the kind of specialization, or maybe on deep learning, or maybe on data visualizations, or SQL and stuff like that. So it waves a path, and he's not so worried about your scores anymore. So that's how you need to really play the game and get the interest of the interviewer to ask you questions the way you want them to ask, instead of going towards your weak points. And again, the whole game is playing on your strengths. So one of the other questions the interview will ask you is your weaknesses. And I, again, was very arrogant and very stupid, and I didn't know what to say initially back in the day, And this is how, like, sometimes I would be, yaar, apna to sahi, sab kuch sahi hai, apna to weakness hi nahi koi. But then, it comes as arrogance. And like, I still remember I gave this answer when I was asked, what is my greatest weakness? And I said that I work too hard, and that's my greatest weakness. And that's actually a really, I would say, BS answer, because what I'm trying to say is that I'm too arrogant to accept whatever weaknesses I have. Okay. So how do you approach this answer, right? You don't really want to tell them your weakness and give the whole interview away. You can't be like, "Haan, mere ko nervous breakdown ho jata hai." Like, that's not a great answer. But how do you want to say this answer is, you want to give them, you want to show them you have some weakness, but you're working on it to improve it. And And a good answer for that would be something like, for example, sometimes I don't have very good attention to details. Well, that's good. It makes me execute things quickly. It also means sometimes I make careless mistakes, but I make sure that I always have someone to double check my answer. Now, this answer is decent because I'm saying that I have a vulnerability, but I've covered that up saying that, I address this vulnerability by making someone else accountable to the last two. So I would really recommend you guys to work on these answers, write it down, and present it to yourself in the mirror hundreds of times. Okay, because these things we feel we can do it, but only practice makes it perfect. Even if you are very fluent in English or if you're not, okay, doesn't matter. On the time when you're nervous, these answers should be like Jana Gana Mana for you. Okay, you should not have to think too much about these things. ये दिमाग में रहना ही चाहिए. And it takes time, it takes practice, and you get nervous, you fail, and it's completely fine. But that's why you need to keep on learning. And it's better to fail in front of your friend and get lost from them than in front of an interviewer. Okay, so if you're scared, if you're nervous, you think you're not so confident in interviewing English, do it more in front of your friends, your families, or online with random people. Okay, that will really, really help you to work on this skill. Okay, moving on to the next question. So one of the other questions people ask is, why do you want to work here? It's a very generic question a lot of people ask. I, again, a lot of times I didn't prepare for this question. I gave stupid answers, I didn't know what to say, or I was just saying, I want to I didn't have any concise answers, or I didn't do my research. So, and this is actually what I said once in Barclays. Barclays is a bank in US. It's actually, I guess it's there in India too now. And I didn't prepare well for this. The guy was already angry with me in the interview because I messed up an easy question, or I wrote something wrong in my resume, and then he suddenly asked me, "Why do you want to join us?" And I just said this, because right. And that was the worst answer to give. Never do that. It comes very arrogant. Obviously, I didn't get that job. And I would not recommend anyone to do that. But so what will you give as an answer? Or what does the company really want to know when they're asking you this question? So what the company wants to do is basically trying to understand, do you understand what the employee is trying to do? What are they building? What is the technology they're working on, or what is the business they're working on? And does your experience match with theirs or relates with theirs, or does it make any sense hiring you so that it helps the company to grow as well? Does your goals in life or career actually match with the company's goals? Okay. So it's very important to research about the company, understand about the company, what the company is doing, and that will give you, and that will also give an impression that you're really interested in working in that company. So it's very important to, again, prepare for this answer. Okay. So I'll give you a quick example again for this, what would be, the answer to why do you want to work here? So an example would be ABC company's reputation is certainly a factor. One of my friends has been working here in the IT department for the last 2 years. He said that this company's culture encourages learning and development while on the job, and also really rewards hard work. So this is a very decent answer, that when you're saying that you have some connection with the company and you heard that your friend is working there, and if your friend is working there, make sure you know the name and don't take it. I messed up this in the thesis interview. Don't do that. So remember it, do some research work. If you don't know friends or someone who's working there, reach people out on LinkedIn, have a quick chat with them, just to get the sense of the environment of the company you're going towards. So that's very, very, very important to you. And I would, again, really recommend writing these answers down and really preparing it. And one of the reasons I'm giving you these snapshot examples is that you can, I hope this is getting recorded. So you can go back and check it out and prepare it. Okay. So, okay, next slide. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Again, a very generic question, which is asked pretty much in every company. Like, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Like, and to be honest, like in this question, this is actually true. I would really want to see myself outside in the next 5 years at least. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you can't really you also need to prepare for this. You can't just say anything in this question. Okay, तुम लोग नहीं बोल सकते यार मेरे को actor बनने का. Like, that's not gonna work. Okay, you really need to understand how to answer and prepare for this question. So what the interviewer really wants to know, okay? So the interviewer basically is trying to judge whether are you ambitious, okay? What are your goals in life, and like are those goals again in track with company's goals, okay? And like what are like would you staying so long at the company will actually benefit company, or else you just coming to the company and then you're going to switch in few years. So you need to be careful on how you are trying to answer this question. Because this really, again, it illustrates how you want to decide your future. And if any company is trying to hire you, they always think with the vision that they're going to hire you for the long term. And whatever years is going to be very effective for us. So that's how they hire you. So it's very important, again, to work on this question. And few of the root answers is not to give is like at your place, the CEO of the company, and or somewhere else. These things are like very wrong answers to say. Never say that. Okay, and never show any arrogance in the interview. Very, very, very wrong thing. Because it's most of the answers you say are not realistic. So if I was, again, you guys, like, what kind of answer would I make now? So I made a quick example on this one again too. So one of the examples for this is I'm really excited to learn about this position, because in the next 5 years, I would like to see myself having an end-to-end expertise in data engineering domain, and I know this job will give me the opportunity for that. I'm excited in developing my managerial skills too, so that in the next couple of years, possibly I can take some lead on some projects. So this gives a very, I would say, defined, safe, average answer to tell them that, you want to commit yourself to this company for 5 years and really learn, which will be valuable, and share that information and mentor people. And that shows a long-term commitment. So that's how I'll put that answer. So going to the next one, which is the technical aspect of it. So most of the stuff I've talked here about was the behavioral aspect. Okay. Again, this is really going to judge. The interviewer sitting there is judging you constantly on the way you're answering questions. So behavioral, in every answer you are talking about behavioral is basically judging you, right? So it's very, very, very important to practice this while you're at home, or like taking time to practice that, because there you're not talking with any logic. Okay, there is no 1 + 1 there. It's the way you present it, the way you move your hands, the way you're stammering, the way you're talking, the amount of time you're using to answer each question matters. So it's very important to have a game plan and prepare for these things. Okay, and so now I'm going to move a bit towards technical, and my technical, I would say, preparation is more towards, I would say, comp science students. And so I would really, I mean, that's what I prepared on. It's not, I'm sorry to say, it's not towards, I would say, the core guys, because I don't have a lot of expertise on that. And it's not towards people who are trying to get an MBA or project management job. Again, it's not towards that. It's people who are trying to get into a software domain, graduating from computer science. So I've made a slides on that. So let me go ahead with this. So the things you really want to learn and keep on reading if you decide to choose going into a computer science domain, being a software engineer, or something in that stream. The thing I will recommend you to keep learning and keep reading is first algorithms and data structures. No matter which company you go, where you go, algorithms and data structures is like the base of everything. Okay, that's what they're going to ask you there. Okay, next is you need to learn one language and very well. You don't need to learn 10 languages. I'm not a great fan of how Mumbai University structures its course, to be honest. So you need to focus, I would say, in your last 2 years in just focusing on language, and it can be anything. Okay. Okay, it can be Python, it can be Java, it can be JavaScript, it can be anything. Okay, if you're more to I would say inclined towards front end and you're doing front end projects, I would say learn JavaScript really well and learn how to build like website and stuff with JavaScript and just completely learn it. And if you're more towards data analytics and data or backend, I would really recommend like maybe learning Java or Python for that. Ideally Python. That's my favorite language, so I'll be biased. So next is keep solving lead code. I don't know how many people of you guys know what lead code is. Lead code is basically it's a website to do interview coding or practicing interviews. Why is this important? Because all the interview questions right now usually come from here now. Okay, and it's a perfect practice zone for you guys to just go and practice your algorithms and lead code. And it basically are like algorithmic questions and data structure questions on solving a tree, traversing a tree and stuff like that. So or manipulating strings. These things might sound trivial, but it takes a really, really long time to expertise on this. So to be honest, it will take you 3 years to finish lead code if you're doing one question a day. Okay, so I would recommend this start now, like wherever you are, and don't like, and you'll be thinking that you'll interview nahi kar rahe, but like whenever we will do interviews, whenever it will happen, you'll be ready for it. And this is just going to be a trend in India too, which I have been seeing recently. I've actually interviewed with few startups in India recently, and I have seen people asking these questions from there, which is not the case when I was interviewing. To be honest, there was no thing like lead code when I was interviewing. So like I would really, really recommend doing that and keeping this as an habit for you, so that you lose this fear of the coding rounds of the interviews. HackerRank is another website. They usually have a lot of coding competitions there, and a lot of companies actually put out competitions there where you can just solve the question in a certain time, and if your solution is better, you get a call. That happens. It has happened to me. That's why I recommend that. Last is hackathons. If you're in your T and your B, keep participating in hackathons. I don't know how hackathons are working nowadays. So I would really, really recommend working on hackathons or like going to hackathons. I'll share a quick story of mine about hackathons and why I think it's so important. Hackathons actually started in 2014-ish when I was just studying my master's. Before that, there was no thing like hackathons. Okay, or at least I haven't heard of. So my University of Arizona started its first hackathon then. And to be honest, I was not so serious about it. Obviously, khana mil raha tha, bhuka tha us din, I was like, jaate hai uske liye. So I went there and I just made random friends, and then I started coding on a project. What happened was that actually hackathon, we made a really cool medical app where we could analyze text messages and emotions in that and recommend therapies. So and we made a quick prototype on it. So that we actually won the prize for the best medical app in that hackathon. And what happened is that I got a call from Xerox, which was the healthcare company that time near my university, and they actually loved my app and they wanted to build something similar. And I got my internship through that into the data analytics, and that was the first data analytics job I got in US for my internship. And from there, I got a job into KPMG, and I then went to Adobe. So I really, really emphasize going to when you go to hackathons, तुम्हारी औकात क्या है तुम्हें पता चलती है. Okay, you have to build something in 2 days, and you understand that either you know a lot or you don't know shit. And that is a very good feedback to have. Okay, and even if you make something crappy, you could still put that on your resume. Like hackathon mein gaya, ye project bana, and that helps you sell yourself. Okay, so resume is a whole different topic. I might have to do a 1 hour presentation on that, so I'm not going to go deep in it. But what I would recommend is use this hackathons as a way to add projects on your resumes. Percentages are good, but to be honest, like मेरे को आज तक किसी ने मेरा percentage नहीं पूछा. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of like putting percentages on the resume. And I would be more interested in putting hackathons, links to the apps or links to the videos of the demos of your apps. And that has also helped me to get interview calls and land jobs. Okay, so that's how I would do this for the rest of my life, and that's what I'm trying to tell you here. And I still do this. Okay, I still try to work on lead code. I still practice my algorithms and data structures. Okay, and like last week this week actually itself I had an interview with Amazon. So yeah, same stuff happened again. The first round is they will ask me algorithms and data structures, and the 20 minutes is basically on that. Okay, so never stop this if you're getting into this field. Very, very important to make this as an habit. Quickly take a look at the time. Okay, still have time. So this is something you guys might know already, but I'm still gonna like talk about because I didn't know when I was graduating. Okay, so if you are in a particular domain, if you're into computer science, like what you need to do is eventually learn how to expertise in a domain. बहुत लोग like job ऐसे ही join कर लेते हैं, especially I have seen a lot of my friends who have joined TCS, Infosys, like all these, they just joined for a job. And maybe that's a reason to join, and I have nothing against it, to be honest. If your goal is to just get a job and have a normal salary, it's fine. You can still do that. But what I highly recommend is like finding your domain or expertise, or passion towards the domain or expertise. Okay. And the way I'll break down computer science is 3 ways. Okay. And this is what I've seen as a pattern. Obviously, there are like a lot of I would say, expertising domains like networks, and driver program and stuff like that. But this is a basic, I would say, 3-part expertise model. I'll divide it in your front end, your back end, and your data. And data has really been there for the last 10 years. So what do I mean by getting a domain expertise? So for example, if you go to a front end, what you would, if you choose front end, right? And if you like JavaScript or you like building websites or apps, I would really recommend you guys to start learning more about like getting very deep into JavaScript, start learning frameworks like React or Angular. But right now I would only recommend React because that's going really well, and really learning how to build stuff on that. Okay. And see what you can do. And then you might have a question that, "Arey, mere paas projects nahi hai, main new grad hai, internship nahi hai, main likhe aake resume." To be honest, like you can actually do anything. Apna Sevpuri wale ka website banao, apne Pan wale ka website banao. Like you can do those things, and you can put that on your resume. Okay, and that still gives you an edge on your other on your against your like competitors you are interviewing with. So that's what I would recommend. Like if you have a front end, go learn React, build projects, and put that on your resume, and keep developing that domain expertise. If you're back end, I would say learn Python or Java on servers. The issue with back end is that you need a real life, I would say, project to really showcase something there. But nowadays, because backend can also be related with data. Okay, so you can learn Python, create APIs, analyze data, and and do stuff like that. So. And there are a lot of Kaggle projects you can do. A lot of open source data is outside there. You can just use there and make something cool. One of the coolest things I recently heard was this guy made this coronavirus update website, and he just made it from like basic JavaScript. And he was let's say final year guy in undergrad, and his website got bid for $8 million. Okay. And what I'm trying to illustrate there is like, don't think when you're building something it's going to be waste. You're going to learn something from that. And you might not always get money, but you can always use that to add to your resume more towards behavioral than technical. And that's how I recruit you. And they don't really recruit you for a certain role. They just recruit you on, just a number basis. And we started like around, I don't know the current salary estimates. I think they're still paying around 3 to 4 lakhs, something, right? That's how they start. And to be honest, they're the most easiest to interview with, and in my experience. So that's the, I would say, tier 4 companies, and below that. Tier 3 is, I would say, some mid-size startups with decent funding. And this has been a trend recently in India. Okay, this was not the case when I was graduating. I wish it was, but I just interviewed with OK Credit, I think, like last year. Decent company, with around 80 million funding, and the interview process has actually gone up. And what's happening is right now the startups can actually afford people and pay them good salary. So they start somewhere around 10 to 15 lakhs, I would say. And the interview process is a bit more technical. I would say they are 50% technical and 50% behavioral. Okay. Then you go towards the tier 2. The tier 2 is extremely difficult to get in India. And there are like few companies in India, like you have Twitter, Adobe, Salesforce, NVIDIA, etc. The tier 2 in India is difficult to get as a new grad, especially because they have this hierarchy in India that IIT se aana chahiye, NIT se aana chahiye, tabhi interview milega. And which I think is absurd, but that's how it is. That's the sad reality of India. Okay. And you guys are going to face it. Okay. Most of you guys will not even get a call from there. Okay. I'll be honest. And it sucks. I know. I didn't get a call in India. I didn't interview with any of the tier 2 companies in India or even tier 3 back when I was a new grad. Okay. And this is something you will face. And it's a very big discouragement. And it's annoying. But what you need to understand that you can still reach there with domain expertise. You go, you work in a company, you choose a particular domain expertise, you can build that experience and eventually land there. And that's how I would recommend you guys to keep your goal. And the reason they are that tough is because they pay higher. Okay, they started around like what 25 to 30 or 40 lakhs an annum in India right now. So again, difficult ones to get, but still possible. But again, the core focus should be to create a domain expertise. Okay, and the final one is the tier 1, the FANG. FANG is basically Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. Okay, most of them now have offices in India, which is actually very encouraging, except Netflix, I guess. The FANG is the toughest. Okay, FANG is 95% technical and 5% behavior. They don't care how you talk. They care what you talk about. Okay, and this is a statement I got from my manager. I used to have my manager was Chinese, and he had broken it. Like he was not super fluent in English. He had broken English, but he was very good at coding. Okay, so all you people who don't have great English or you can't communicate well, don't get discouraged. Okay, because if people from FANG like don't worry about your communication language, how you communicate, and so that's actually I would say then focus your technical strengths there. So get so good that you should be able to crack that. But again, how would you crack that, right? FANG is the reason FANG is tough is just because now you're just not competing against IITians, right? You're competing against people from throughout the world, the Stanfords, the Harvards, the MITs. और तुम्हें उनके लेवल में तुम्हारे लेवल में difference है. Like honestly, I'm not discouraging you. Like there's a difference, and you need to understand that difference first to understand how you're going to compete with them or even reach that. Okay. So and to simplify the difference, it's like तुम लोग वसई के कोई local T20 में खेल रहे हो cricket, or FANG is like going to India's team and playing for India. उस level तक का difference है. Okay, between a Stanford student and like you graduating from here. Okay, and the first aspect about improving is accepting where you are in that level. Okay, and there's nothing wrong. You may be missing. Okay, and I have interviewed. So and I'm going to share an experience of mine, how I did this. But what I want you guys to understand is first figure out what is really the difference between you and a Stanford engineer or a Harvard engineer. Okay, वो लोग क्या ऐसा अलग कर रहे हैं कि हम लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं? What is the difference between me and an IIT engineer? Okay, and that will give you a lot of answers to understand that how they are approaching the career, right? What kind of expertise, what kind of courses they are taking, how good are they, how much better they are at in the coding languages or the frameworks and stuff like that. So I would really recommend Googling that, searching that. Okay, and the reason they are so tough is because you're basically working with the brightest minds in this planet. Okay, just to give you an estimate of FANG starts like Netflix engineer starts at $200K US. That's almost like 1.5 crores. Your starting salary, and that's how much they make. Okay, so like there is a difference, and between engineer from Infosys and an engineer from Netflix. Okay, and it's important to understand that difference, because that will help you to become a good engineer if you're, again, focusing in this path stream. And how to crack a FANG interview and what you have to study for it, maybe I have to do another whole session on that. I would need more time for that. So what I'm going to do now is I've told you how to interview. I've told you the different aspects of it, and then मैंने different levels बता दिए companies के, किस में औकात है किस में नहीं है वो भी पता चल गया. But okay, let me. But my goal is to give you some hope that you can also make it to the top, even when such circumstances are happening. Okay. Because when I was graduating, I didn't have a lot of online courses. Okay, I didn't have a lot of, I would say, Coursera was not big. Online courses were not that cheap. But you guys have all of that. YouTube पे इतना content नहीं था. किसी को पूछने के लिए कुछ था नहीं. So it was very difficult for me when I graduated and trying to understand and get where I am right now. So I made a lot of mistakes throughout my, I would say, journey. And I'll share that with you for you guys to understand how did I go through this process, okay, or how did I reach where I reached. And again, I am not claiming that I'm still a FANG engineer. I still have to reach that level, but I'm close to it. I feel I'm right now choosing not to go there because of my work-life balance right now. Okay, but what I've understood is I know what it takes to go there. Okay, and that's what I can share with you guys. Just to give you my background, तुम्हारे professors ने बहुत बड़ा चढ़ा के मेरे को introduce किया. मैं इतना कुछ खास आदमी नहीं. Okay, I was not a very bright student when I was a kid. Okay, मेरे को 10वीं में 70 भी नहीं मिला था. So I was struggling to get a science admission. Okay, and I grew up in Boisar. TVM में पढ़ाई किया था मैंने most of my schooling, and from there I did last 10th, 9th, 10th I did from Nala. I was in Nala Sukara, and I sucked. मेरे पास कुछ अच्छा percentage नहीं था. I scored 70%, not 69% from my 10th. वो मेरे घर में तो वो गाली थी. And I was literally I wanted to be an engineer, but मेरे को कोई admission देने को तैयार नहीं था. तो science में admission देने को तैयार नहीं था. So I somehow got into Viva. I don't know how much. Yeah, you guys must know Viva College now. It's pretty big. That time they only had they didn't have engineering college that time. So Viva में admission मिला. Engineering के लिए CET में भी I didn't score good. Okay. I didn't even get a computer science seat. Okay, so you understand by that. I did instrumentation engineering. Engineering पहले इसमें पहला क्लास ही होता है कि instrumentation engineering क्या है बताते हैं. So it was bad. And I didn't have a lot of guidance when I was choosing that. So I just took it. I just took that engineering. So an instrumentation engineering, I would say हम लोग सबसे छोटी जात होती है for engineering इसमें सब लोग हंसते हैं. But I was also not good at engineering in my first year. Okay, and I was very disappointed कि अरे यार मैं instrumentation engineering कर रहा हूँ, मेरे जिंदगी में कुछ होगा नहीं, and stuff like that. First year also I didn't do that well. I scored around 6. I hardly managed 40 आया था मेरे को, and I didn't score that well. But from second year I started taking my life seriously, and थोड़ा पढ़ाई करना शुरू किया मैंने. And then again, but I was not some university topper or something. मैंने कभी top नहीं किया. Okay. I maximum मेरा एक बार में second आता class में, that's it. और I used to get around 70, 65, 60 के बीच में rotate करता था मैं rest of my semesters. But I didn't get 80 KT. I'm very proud of that. So अब मेरे को आज भी सपने आता है कि मैं एग्जाम में फेल हो रहा हूँ, तो अभी मेरे को डर लगता है इंजीनियरिंग से. तो yeah, that's how I did my engineering. By the end of fourth year, I was I felt that okay, this actually end of second year. क्या हुआ? The reason I started taking my life seriously. एक तो मेरा दिल टूटा था उस टाइम, तो I was like नहीं अभी तो पढ़ाई पे फोकस करेगा, ये सब क्या भाड़ में. But I was also getting a sense that इंडिया में मैं ग्रेजुएट हुआ, मेरे को जॉब मिला फोर्थ ईयर में, तो I would get a salary of like on 3 or 4 lakhs. और मेरे को मुंबई में घर खरीदना था. That was my goal. Okay. Or like, and then I was making this calculation in my head कि 4 लाख की सैलरी, 1 करोड़ का घर, तब 1 करोड़ का, अभी कुछ ज्यादा ही है. अभी मैं actually afford नहीं कर सकता. But and the thing I was I got a realization that कि अरे यार ये तो like ये तो मुश्किल है. I have to really do something different to like be able to afford a house. And I come from a very poor family. ऐसा भी मेरा like I am not a crorepati something. So I come from a very humble family, lower middle class family भाई अपन. तो like मेरा बस एक सपना था, एक बॉम्बे में घर खरीदे, एक अंधेरी में घर खरीदते, मैं ट्रेन में ट्रैवल नहीं करने का. So I was just trying to find answers for that, to be honest. And then I realized that कि M.Tech करने से भी कुछ खास मिल नहीं रहा था मेरे सीनियर्स को. और तो I was like, मैं यूएस जाएगा, वहां पे कमाएगा. बट मेरे को सीधा ऐसा यूएस नहीं जाना था. I wanted to be a good engineer. So I started asking questions. How will I be a good engineer? Right? तो मैं एक domain expertise कैसे पकड़ूं? So by end of 4th year almost, I understood that embedded systems is something I might be interested in. वो सब्जेक्ट मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था. इट इज समथिंग इंस्ट्रूमेंटेशन में हम लोग को थोड़ा एम्बेडेड सिस्टम्स सिखाते हैं. तो आई डिड प्रीटी वेल इन दैट. आई काइंड ऑफ लाइक यूनिवर्सिटी में लाइक सबसे ज्यादा मार्क्स आया था मेरे को फाइनल ईयर में उसमें. तो आई वाज लाइक ये करते हैं, अपने को ये करना है. एंड देन आई ओनली हैड अ चैट विद वन गाय who was in L&T, I guess, in embedded systems that time. और तभी ऐसा रिसोर्सेज नहीं था कि you can go and learn from YouTube or ask people questions. कुछ नहीं था तब. तो वो देखा मैंने. But then I still cracked a lot of interviews. Okay, I was the only guy in my college to crack like 4 IT jobs coming from instrumentation background. क्योंकि मैंने इतना रिसर्च कर लिया था कि इंटरव्यू कैसे करते हैं, इंटरव्यू प्रिपेयर कैसे करते हैं and stuff like that. Okay, और मैंने सिर्फ बिहेवियरल पे 4 इंटरव्यूज क्रैक किए थे आईटी के. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर श्रद्धा मेरे साथ ओरेकल के एक इंटरव्यू में थी और उसने बोला कमी नहीं, तू सेलेक्ट हो गया, मैं नहीं. I still remember that. So that's what I will really recommend you guys out there in non IT branches to, if you are interested in this field, India gives you that opportunity to get into this field. But what I'm trying to say here is I was working on this aspect. But then by the end of the 4th year, I realized that I only have technical abilities. I only have like speaking abilities. Mumbai University का ये एक विषय है कि तुम्हारा technical knowledge बहुत solid develop नहीं होता. So when I researched, I eventually found this academy called as CDAC, Center and Development for Advanced Computing. It's a DRDO subsidy. Okay, so I would really recommend googling that and like learning about them. So it's basically an institute that for a lot of people in India, right? Bombay में तो फिर भी companies आती हैं. A lot of people from like north, they don't have companies coming to their colleges. So what they do is they usually go to CDAC. CDAC is basically a 6 months course on a particular specialization. You can choose embedded systems, you can choose amp computing, there's also a computer science stream. I would really recommend checking it out. मेरे time पे online courses नहीं थे, and that was the only way to learn and get a domain expertise. You don't have to do it, but CDAC also has placements. Okay, so that was CDAC can get you like to the tier 2 placements. Okay, so that's how I went to CDAC. बहुत struggle किया मैंने वहाँ पे. And CDAC is extremely hard for a non-computer science background student. But in 6 months they completed 2 years master's course. Okay, embedded systems. So by end of that torture of 6 months, I didn't have any fear of learning a new technology or coding. ठीक है, ऐसा scene हो गया था मेरा. So and I somehow luckily eventually got a placement in Rockwell there. Rockwell was that time's dream company. Rockwell Collins, now it's called Collins Aerospace. And that was my dream company. उसके लिए मैंने सीधा ज्वाइन किया था, मैंने क्रैक किया था. I was like मैं राजा है, मेरे को मिल गया जो मेरे को चाहिए, अपना सपना हो गया अपना. तो and I was like in that phase. But what happened is, and Rockwell actually does cool stuff. It does cockpit software. So I was working on auto takeoff, auto landing for Airbus and Boeing. But after, I would say a year, I was really getting bored there. I didn't really enjoy embedded systems. And it was very difficult for me to accept that. क्योंकि मैंने इतनी मेहनत की थी उस चीज को choose करने के लिए, and suddenly I was saying that I don't like it. And And then what I decided I would do, I would go to University of Arizona. That's where I got my master's. I went there. And मेरे को एक ही यूनिवर्सिटी मिली थी, मेरे को ज़्यादा यूनिवर्सिटीज मिले नहीं थे. From there, I did my hackathon. From the hackathon, I got my first internship job. And from there, I got my KPMG job. And again, the one good thing I did in this is I was always domain specific. Okay, when I was looking for an internship, I was looking for my domain of data analytics and data science. I just didn't pick. I chose. I mean, I just didn't take what I got. I always chose my job. Okay, so in Xerox, I took the data analytics internship. From there, which paid me a path for KPMG. Again, that journey was difficult. KPMG was my 104th company I interviewed. So I basically failed 104 companies. And it's very depressing when you fail so many companies. So like your morale like keeps going down. But what happens is that when you keep failing and you keep trying, there comes a point that you really get good at it. And like the questions started repeating, okay? And you already prepared really well for those things. So even if you're failing in your interviews right now, I would really recommend not to get discouraged. Take it as a learning curve. Don't stop. Keep attempting, okay? And that's what most of my friends didn't do then, okay? And most of the people who were there with me are much better coders, okay? But they still are stuck in like you know, a normal company because they were just scared to fail more, and I was not, okay? So after KPMG and spending there for 2 years, I finally got my job at Adobe. And Adobe was my 154th company. So again, after KPMG, right away, I didn't get my Adobe job. I still failed, okay? But I kept my goal as a hire. I wanted to go to the tier 2 companies, right? And 154th company was Adobe. And when Adobe happened, actually something cool happened. I finally got a platform to work on like really cool $1 million problems. And that exposed me to become a really expert in the big data and machine learning domain. And that gave me an edge. And तब फिर Adobe में 2 साल काम करने के बाद मेरे को tech conferences के लिए call आने लगे. People started referencing my architectures online. मेरे blogs पढ़ने लगे लोग. And that's when I started finally to get some fame. And now I'm finally at the point where I get a call from a company almost every day. Okay, and I still don't stop interviewing. Okay, and I still fail, and that's completely fine. And that's how I learn. Okay, again, what I'm trying to tell you in this journey is, like मैं show off नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but what I'm trying to say is that, like if I can do it, pretty much everyone you out there can do it. Because मेरे में ऐसा कुछ खास skills, memory कुछ नहीं है, and I just kept trying when people gave up. Okay, and that's the message I want you to take from this session. Okay. Even if you're failing right now, if you think your English is not good, if you're not good in technical rounds, it's okay. Take that feedback, work on it. Okay. I really like this quote from Zakir Khan. He says that in his talk once. Like when people are commenting at you or giving you feedback, don't say that, you know, like sunna nahi chahiye nahi. Sun, ruk, dekh, soch. And what he means by that, and it's a really beautiful statement, is basically he's telling that understand what you can improve in yourself, because criticism and feedback helps you to improve. And when you work on that, you grow as a person. Okay. And so that's a message I would like to give you guys right under this session. Wow, I spoke a lot. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of it. Yeah, sorry I made this long. I wanted to keep it short. You can take over. But yeah, that's all from me. If you guys have any questions, और तुमको अच्छा लगा नहीं अच्छा लगा, like ये वाला slide बेकार था, वो वाला slide अच्छा था, तो कुछ भी feedback है, feel free to comment. अपनी बहुत सख्त आदमी है, चलेगा.
Okay. Hello, Navin sir.
Yes.
So I'll be asking you certain questions asked by our students.
Okay.
One by one. So the first question that a student has asked is, how can freshers build his profile for machine learning jobs?
Okay.
I'll repeat it once more. How can freshers build his profile for machine learning jobs?
So it's actually a good question, and a lot of people ask me this. The first thing you need to understand is, machine learning is an expertise where you need statistical knowledge and good maths. And what I mean by that is there's a whole different department of statistics. and first I'll give you an example of who gets selected for these jobs. Okay. So most of the people who get recruited for these jobs are people who already have masters or PhD in computer science and statistics. Okay. So I have this combination, or have done computer science and have done the research theses on some machine learning application in their universities. Those are the first people who get picked for these kind of roles, who are actually solving machine learning problems. Most of the machine learning out there, वो लोग सिर्फ SQL कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? And why it is needed? Because when you really look at these problems and what I'm solving right now, you need deep understanding of linear equations, calculus, and stuff like that to decode and validate things. Okay, and that's why it's needed. Coming back to your question, how can you build a profile? So what I would really recommend is starting with if you don't have that expertise, first get exposed to Kaggle. Okay, Google and Kaggle gives you a very good platform to understand and analyze data. Okay, and get a sense of first building Python skills and data analysis skills and data visualization skills. Yeah, basics. Okay, and what this will do is first get you an entry into a company where you can work closer to a machine learning engineer. Okay, and learn things from them. Okay, and if things are well and you don't want to do a master's, to go invest nahi karna, what you can do there is you can keep working with them and aim for first data analytics or a data engineering role, or first data analytics and eventually move to data engineering role. Try to work closely with machine learning engineers and eventually become a machine learning engineer. And I'm talking with this experience, and this is exactly what I've done. मेरे पास वो statistic background नहीं था, so when I used to go to interviews, I used to fail them. So and I couldn't do it. So first I grew in my role as a data engineer. I became an expertise. Then I closely worked with a machine learning engineer and eventually started taking some of his work and eventually got into his team. Okay, and that's how right now I'm a R&D machine learning engineer in Adobe right now. I just got that role like 6 months ago. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I hope that answered your query. The next question is a tricky one. What should one do if he is asked, would you lie for your organization?
Don't join that organization.
What should one do if he would ask, would you lie for your organization?
No, that's my answer. Like, must join karo as the organization, because this is not going to take your career. And this might sound rude, but तुम लोग ऐसा पैसे का बहुत जरूरत है तो बोल दो, but that's okay. That was on a funny note. But I in KPMG when I was working, my resume was being sold. Okay, for being a Kafka expert or a data engineering expert. जब मेरे को graduate हुए 4 महीने हुए थे. Okay, and that was a complete bullshit. And I had to really work hard to live up to that expectation. So this experience can burn you out, but but I was not lying anymore. मैं जहाँ पे भी जा रहा था, I was very honest about my work. Okay, and I would not recommend to lie because it never lands well. Okay, it is like a false impression because I had a colleague who was lying on certain project, and the manager caught me and he called me and he started talking to me that अरे यार वो हमसे झूठ बोलता, मैं इस पे भरोसा कैसे करूं? And that would click me, bharosa, and that is very essential, because even if you make mistakes, if someone trusts you, he knows that that's an honest mistake and you're not backstabbing him. So never ever lie in a meet in a company. And if you asked that question, I think that's an unethical question to ask, and divert the question.
Okay, Preetham, I hope that answers your query. The next one is, what if I don't wish to explain my weaknesses?
Exactly, right? So you can't say like I don't have weaknesses, or it is not about what you like or you don't like. Most of the interview, it is about what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. Okay, and there's a very good difference in that. Okay, you might not like cricket, you might like football, or like something like that. That's likeness. Here, can you play cricket? And this is the question. Okay. So if you need to articulate your weakness in a way that, it is helpful for the company, and to understand how do you work in that, in a pressure environment, or, in a stressful environment. And they're trying to understand your working ability. under certain circumstances. And that's what the question is about. I hope that helps you answer that.
Yeah. Next one is, how do you explain your strength without being arrogant or overconfident or overqualified? It would be better if you can answer with an example.
How to actually answer your strength without sounding... I'll give an example. I'll give an example of myself, my strengths. So one of the examples I usually when I am asked this, I say I'm very hardworking and I'm very ethical and very honest about my job. That's what my strengths are, and I try to give 100% in every task I get, and I'll keep it short and concise. And if they want a scenario example, I'll basically tell them I was working on a machine learning project where I was the only guy to basically build this from proof of concept to an end-to-end production pipeline. But I had to work continuously alone on this for 3 months without much guidance and just working on research papers. And it's my resilience and my ability which I feel helped me to overcome this challenge and finally get a product which helped me to save $1 million for the company. Okay, so that's an example. How would I put it? When you're saying the hardworking and just illustrating with a small example. I hope that helps.
Okay. The next one is, this is from a second year student, very important one. How to choose a domain?
Good. So there is no right way to choose a domain. The only way you understand the thing is you with your feelings. And feelings usually, मेरे लिए तो कभी अच्छे से काम नहीं किए. ठीक है. So what I would say is, first I thought I love embedded systems. Okay, I chose embedded systems. And it's invested money, time, and years in it, just to realize that I hate it eventually. Okay, but what I did was I changed. In 2012, when I was in Rockwell, I was almost in depression that time, and in Hyderabad there is a place called as Ameerpet where they teach you all these courses. Before, this is pre-online courses. Okay, so वहाँ पे like all the latest technology courses सिखाते थे. So I went there. I invested like 10,000 or 14,000 rupees that time. Course का cost था 2012 में Hadoop पे. I invested that money. I learned it, and I was open to like learning more stuff, and I really liked it. And that 10,000 rupees has actually given me a career right now. Okay, so what I would say is, if you when you're studying, you will know what you like and what you don't like. Go take a shot at it and try to fail fast. Try to commit completely, fail fast. If you don't like it, switch. And one other aspect is that is money. When I was doing embedded systems in India, I didn't get one single call from any other company. It was very difficult to get a call. So I was seeing no money factor. There was no sexiness in that job. But when I started doing big data, now I get a call from every company, like pretty much every day. And that gives me a very, I would say, a sexy factor for this. I like my demand, man. So that helped me to be more excited and learn more, because I could see the value I'm creating in myself in real time. So also be curious about that. But at the same time, don't think that embedded systems is bad. That's not what I was saying. The guy I studied with in CDAC, right? He was my roommate. Now he's a technical lead in embedded systems in NVIDIA in San Francisco. So you can actually like the field and do good in that. He worked for ARM and then he worked for NVIDIA now. He's followed me for masters. So find your interest, okay? And when that interest comes and when it happens, and when you see some money for it, a spark will happen. And what I'll really recommend is reading this book, I would say. If you really want trying to find your passion or trying to understand what domain or passion you want, there's a good book called So Good That They Can't Ignore You. I'll leave the link eventually. This is a PhD student from Cal Newport from Berkeley, computer science guy. Really good book, and he explains scenarios how people have chosen domains, expertises, or careers.
Okay. The next one is, most of the company ask for percentile, but skills are also important. How to manage them both?
To be honest, no one asked me a percentage till now. Okay. And the way I'll put it is, if I have a cool app link on my phone, on my resume, or a cool website link on my resume, I'm interviewing you. and the person can click it and like and see it, or you can make them click and see it, and they can see something physical and which is something running actual compared to a 79 or 80 or 90 percentile people. I would pick you any day than the other person. I'll pick you even if you have 1080 KTs. Like, मेरे को फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Because when you are at the job, you need to deliver real products. Okay, your percentage is not going to come and save you. So that shows you like building things shows you the effect of having it helps you to be overshadow your lower percentages. And people who have higher percentage, they already have an advantage. Okay, so yeah.
Right. Thank you, sir. The next one is, sir, in your examples, you spoke about algorithms and data structure. Can you please give us an example about what kind of questions can be asked related to it? That is related to algorithms or data structure.
What kind of questions? Sure. I mean, like, for example, string manipulation, string reversing, or finding cycle in linked list. Traversing a link tree in a in order pre-order, or creating a tree from in order pre-order shaped trees. So these things like questions on strings, linked lists, trees, graphs, dynamic programming, recursions, stuff like that.
Okay, basically the basic ones just like the basics should be very clear.
So you need to execute these things. You're not answering these questions. You're solving this problem real time. Let me quickly see if I can share that. I'm surprised you guys don't know this part. Let me see if I can share that lead code with you guys. Leadcode.com. Okay, let me see. Okay, how to share this thing now. So now I enter screen. Screen one. Share. Okay, you guys can see my screen, right? So explore. So this is lead code. Okay, go subscribe. काम करना शुरू करो अभी से. For example, problems. Let's see problems. So this basically is a website which tracks all the interview questions. Okay, like जो भी दे रहा है, and everyone like shares about these questions. Like कोई भी interview दे रहा है तो like share करता है. For example, this. Okay, quick thing. Removing a all from a string. Okay, so what is a Google? He's not going to ask you such an easy question. Okay, but a lot of interview questions will open a coding part. Okay, they'll put this question and they'll tell you to like execute this thing. So this is how the structure will be. We'll be having exactly this is how the structure will be. We'll having a question. There'll be an input and output. Then tell you to define this function and solve this and run the question. And you need to put the answer. And at the same time, discuss the logic with them, address it with them. Okay. And then this thing has a whole structure of listing difficult, hard, medium questions. And the tougher the company is, the harder the questions become. Yep, okay. That's how I put it.
Okay. Now the next one is, how much experience should be needed to go into the field of data science? And is doing masters a compulsion?
So the good thing right now is that in India, a lot of data science jobs are there. Doing a master's is not a compulsion, right? But then you need to do something to cover for that. Okay. So that's the thing. I have not done a master's in data science, right? But I had to work on my resume for 4 years to build that experience to join a data science team. Okay. So kahin na kahin, you have to like work hard to get that experience and add it. But if you want a data science job right out of college, then you probably have to join a master's or a PhD program.
Fine. In a technical interview, is it okay to completely deny any question asked if you do not know the answer, or should I pretend like I'm recalling the answer?
Never pretend to recall the answer. Be honest. Nahi aata tha nahi aata. And I actually like that instead of
वाइवा के वीडियो में लोग दिखाते हैं. So I don't do that because what I'm going to do is take your response and make fun with my colleagues. हम लोग का मस्त चाय टाइम का टाइम पास हो जाएगा. So don't do that, right? Like if you don't know something, it's better to make it less embarrassing and just say that you don't know.
Okay. So basically, do not answer it. How do you cope up with continuous failures in interviews? Can you give us some tips on how to not give up?
That's a tough one. How should I say that? How to cope up? It was very hard for me, to be honest. Startingly, I was very sad. Like in my master's time, like मेरे दोस्तों को पहले 2 interviews में job मिल गई. मेरे 2 roommates थे, and then like दोनों को job मिल गई थी. एक को MathWorks में मिल गई थी, एक को Intel में मिल गया था. And it was the last semester. They were enjoying it. रोज रात को प्रोजेक्टर में मूवी पेश करे और मैं मर रहा हूँ इंटरव्यूज देने को. So it was very discouraging for me. And but you need to find that hope or energy or something you can cling on. Okay, like तुम्हारी जिंदगी में कुछ होगा यार, like you know that you strive towards, और ये करना है मुझे या वो करना है मुझे, you know एक होप होगा जिसके लिए तुम जी रहे हो. नहीं है तो ढूंढो, वो बहुत जरूरी है. Because fail तो बेटा तुम होगे. Okay, and what you do when you fail is that you need to cling to this hope. Okay, so find that hope, find the inspiration. It can be anyone. It can be your parents. It can be your girlfriend. It can be your your little brother. Anyone. But find that hope in your life. It can be doing something good for the country too, and it can be anything. Dhoni कहता है मैं देश के लिए क्रिकेट खेला. So it can be anything. So find that. Okay, and that purpose is very essential to define, because whenever failures happen, that is the only thing which will keep you floating. Okay, and not get discouraged. So yeah, that's how I'll say it. How I handled it, I didn't have an option to come back, and that's how I thought about myself. कि मैं इंडिया वापस नहीं जाऊंगा ऐसे. क्या इज्जत का सवाल है, मैं ऐसे वापस नहीं जाऊंगा. मुझे कुछ बनना है, उसके लिए मैं आया था, and I was ready to take a bullet for it. मैं इतना था मेरे में, और I was a very energetic kid. And that kept me driving. Okay. Like मुझे अपना जिंदगी बदलना था. एक दिन मुंबई में घर खरीदेगा अपन, तो like तो वो वाले पैशन से मैं निकला था. And that kept me afloat, man. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Okay. The next one is, which is the most preferred language used in IT companies?
So languages change. Every 4 years languages change. 4 साल पहले जावा था, अभी थोड़ा पाइथन आया था, अभी स्काला आने वाला है. So what I would recommend is just pick one language and learn that. Okay, but at the same time develop your basics so that you can change your skills anytime. Now, like my previous team, they are moving to Scala now after working for like 3 years in Python. So they will tell you to change your language anytime. But if you have this learning adaptability and your basic concepts of algorithms, data structures, really good. Learning a language becomes pretty easy. Because to be honest, like मेरे को क्या सब क्या रट्टा याद नहीं है सारा Python का syntax. अभी भी Google करके करता है वाला चीजें. ठीक है? And it's completely fine. No one's going to judge you for that. Okay? But if you write dirty code, okay, because your principles are like your fundamentals are wrong. You don't know how to test a code. You don't know how function works. You don't know how to pass a variable. That's bad. That's a fundamental issue. Okay? That's not a coding language issue. So I hope that helps.
Now, sir, the next one is, how to get most out of Amazon Web Services? How do I master it?
They used to give a free tire. I don't still remember if they give one now.
They do.
For students. एक MLH hackathon करके था. I'll check for resources for it. You can find. But usually they give a free courses or free tier for students. Even GCP does it. And if Amazon doesn't do it, GCP does it. Okay, so go to GCP. I'm pretty sure about that. GCP $500 देता है. You can use that to compute for students. And cloud is just don't focus on cloud. Focus on the concepts. Focus on distributed architecture. Focus on learning scalability. Focus on building scalable applications. Okay, that should be your focus. And these are concepts. Okay, this is not something cloud related. And then clouds have their own tools. Okay, so Google has data flow engine for computing. AWS has EMR Spark for distributed computing. Okay, these are two distributed engines. but the core concept is the distributed engineering. Okay, so whatever cloud is giving you free, learn it. Okay, there'll always be customers for that. Okay, that's how I'll put it.
Next one. What is the roadmap to be a data engineer?
To be a data engineer, first have solid SQL skills and database modeling skills, which you can learn in school itself. Okay, go online, look for data sets, keep querying, keep learning that. The issue with data engineering is that it's very difficult to crack in. No one is ready to give a newbie data engineer a role, because data engineering is an expensive job. For example, I will give an example. 2 years ago when I joined Adobe, when I launched a big server, and वो server ने 2-3 महीने चला दिया, and bill $40,000 आ गया. ठीक है, $40,000 is what, like 28 lakhs. Yes. मेरी टीम का बिल था वो. And my boss was angry. वो कुछ कर नहीं सकता था क्योंकि मेरे को फायर करेगा तो हायर किसको करेगा. So he still gave me the job. So there is this thing where data engineer, you working on a problem which is very cost computers, but at the same time, and so it's very difficult to I would say get a new grad data engineering role. So you really have to struggle for that, and you really have to fight for that. So it's very important for you to land an internship, okay, and like really work hard for that, and that's going to open your doors to getting a new grad or a data engineer 1 role or a data engineer 2 role, which they are okay to hire a junior for.
Okay. Now, so what is more important? Can Java be used for machine learning, or Python is a compulsion?
Again, language is not a compulsion. Java has machine learning libraries, same as Python. Okay, but it's just a preference, right? Like what language the whole world is using. So I would really recommend Googling it up and seeing what company and other company stacks are using. Machine learning, my team, they work on Scala. Okay, but like I know a lot of other teams which work in Python. Okay, so it's not a compulsion. The first thing you need to do is do understand regression. Do you understand supervised and unsupervised learning? Do you understand deep learning or neural networks or TensorFlow, how to use it, stuff like that. That's more important. Usually have wrappers for every language.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next one is it good to share a business startup idea in an interview about what we want to do in future?
I actually did that, and not did that. I had an implementation. I was working on a pharmaceuticals issue on how I'll use satellite imaging to predict water resources in Maharashtra, and then basically predict the crop growth. मैंने एक छोटा प्रोटोटाइप बनाने के लिए एक गाँव गया भी था मैं, कोप्पल करके बैंगलोर से दूर है. And a lot of people have asked me, what is the toughest project you've done? And for me, that was the most toughest project, because I stood under a tree and explained that concept to 50 farmers, जो बहुत गुस्से में थे. And that was a very exciting thing for the people to listen or hear. Okay, but it's very important on how you articulate it. Okay, like the business idea you're trying to tell is, the way you should articulate is that that's the most interesting problem you have been trying to solve, not that I want to join your company or मैं तो business idea खोलेगा. ऐसा नहीं. So the articulation is very important. I hope that makes sense.
Next one is, what are the must-have skills for an entry-level data analyst?
SQL, data modeling, learn a bit of a cloud, that always helps you. Get a certification if you can. सर्टिफिकेशन पैसे लगते हैं तो कोर्सेरा को कोर्सेज कर लो डेटा एनालिसिस पे, बहुत कोर्सेज हैं कोर्सेरा पे. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They learn a little bit of data visualization too. Yeah.
Okay. Next one is, sir, I am from automobile branch. I want to go into core of IT or computer science. From where should I start?
Where should you start? First, if you can get a job in, first of all, the Tier 4 company, Infosys, TCS, all these people don't have a requirement, okay, of that. Join Infi. They teach you basics from scratch, okay, if you can. If you cannot join Infosys, then what I would do is घर बैठ Coursera पे courses दे और कर चालू कर दो, ठीक है? I never took a database lecture, and I'm a data engineer. That's the irony of my life. Okay, so like I learned everything from books. All right, and I read like 10 or 20 books on data engineering or distributed systems. किसी ने मेरे को सिखाया नहीं कुछ. मैं तुम लोग के लिए at least there are so many videos out there, so many courses out there. मेरे टाइम तो वो भी नहीं था. So I was just reading books and I was learning it. So what I would say is, yeah, if you can get into IT job, go there and like just get like trained, do the normal track. And the disadvantage for you is now you have to spend a year or two just to get the basics right and find the domain expertise. Where the other people have the computer science people have advantage of doing that. But the funny part is, मेरे साइड के like at least my branch of computer science ऐसा कोई नहीं था जो actually US आया और बहुत बड़ा computer science job कर रहा है. एक ही दोस्त है actually Microsoft में काम कर रहा है. And so they don't understand what they have. So you don't have like a significant advantage. What they are learning right now can be learned. Okay, so don't be discouraged. Try to join an IT job like TCS Infosys, learn there and find a domain. What I've said before, keep working on it and eventually find an expertise. Okay, if you can't do that, read by yourself, join a startup, work for free, join a non-profit, work for free for them, try to get more experience, show you're passionate, and keep on applying to the startups where they can give you a chance to learn.
The next one is, what is more important, marks or interest?
Marks, interest, any day. Marks are kya karoge yaar tum? And like, if interest is very, very important because the reason I am good at my stuff is because if anything new happens, I pounce on it. If I get a new job, if I look at a new problem, I get really excited to solve it, and that's what helps me to build my profile, grow my profile, and I keep solving tougher problems, and that's how I improve my profile, and that only happens because I have interest in this. Okay, and again, interest has a relationship with money. Okay, तुमको interest नहीं आएगा, तुम्हारा interest मर जाएगा, तुमको पैसा नहीं मिलने वाला है उसमें, ठीक है? And that's what I've personally learned. So try to create that interest in something. Okay, मेरे को ज़्यादा interest नहीं है UI में, मेरे को interest नहीं है JavaScript में. I understood that. So मैं कुछ खास करता नहीं उसमें, to be honest. I've slowly started, but have an open mind to check out new things. Because आज जो interest है कल नहीं रहा तुम्हारा वो इसमें interest. But you should have the ability, confidence to adapt and change your interest again and create an expertise in it. Okay, and that's very important. Marks don't matter. This is actually fine. One of my wife's colleague was a construction worker. वो laborer था. वैसा ईट लगा के building बनाता था. वो data engineer. So you don't have to worry about don't have to worry about marks. So what I'm trying to say is he can do it. He can only do it because of his interest in that domain.
So that was all the questions that I had from all the students. Thank you for answering it one by one. I hope the answers given by sir was satisfactory itself. If you all have any other questions apart from the ones that I've asked, please tell it in the chat section. It can be asked right now. Is there any other questions from the students? So the basic questions that I suppose the interviewer initially asked is, tell me something about yourself. And as you said, keep it short and concise. If I'm not wrong, in the first slide itself you explained, keep it short and concise. So sometimes what happens is when we start explaining the question or when we start saying the question, answering the question, we tend to keep it short, but what happens is in that flow, we extend it.
Yes.
So can you give us an outlayer of it?
Sure. Record yourself when you're answering that question, when you're practicing.
Okay.
And this is what a lot of actors do. And what you're doing there is acting. Okay. You're acting in front of them that you're something. Okay. So what I would say is record yourself. When you record yourself, what happens is you get instant feedback of what all things you're doing. Okay. Whenever you're practicing this answer, record yourself and time yourself. And I do this all the time. Even when I'm playing music, I do that. I record myself to understand like what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. Okay. And how much length I'm playing. So if you're practicing these things, it's really good because you all have camera phones now and everything, right? So just record yourself and see how you're doing it. और तुमको नहीं अच्छा लगा तो interviewer को अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. Very simple. Okay. So and practice this. It's all about practice. भावनाओं में मत बह जाओ. Okay. That's what I will say. Like and get feedback.
How to start the conversation? Monu, can you be clear on your question? How to start the conversation? What do you mean by that? Is it like how to start the conversation with the interviewer? It's like myself as Monu Mahato. Monu, I need an explanation for that question. Okay, this question is, how do I start with it? Basically, the interviewer.
Tell me about yourself is a decent, I would say, approach to go for it. That's why it's really important to practice that, right? That's your first impression.
So it's like myself. We should start with your name only, basically by your name. Yeah. Okay. Monu, I hope that question is answered. Start with your name. Okay, sir. That was all the questions that I had.
Sweet.
Thank you, sir, for your patience. Now I call upon Joel for the further process.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, ma'am. I would first like to say a happy Eid Mubarak to all. It's my privilege that I've been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Joel George, from BEIT, on behalf of SJCEM and the entire ITSA team, let me call it a fraternity of institute here together, and on my behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all present here for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. I would also like to thank a big thank you to Mr. Navin sir for his efforts towards on how to crack the interview. Further, we are also grateful to our speaker for demonstrating his views on how to crack it. I may also express a sincere thanks for giving excellent views and coverage on how you interacted with each of them. And we also like to acknowledge our gratitude for exposing your theory on how to crack it. We all are inspired by your great words. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place a hearty thanks to ITSA and the whole IT department and for the perfect logistic support and guidance that have been extended to all of us on this occasion. Once again, I also want to state that we are almost grateful to Navin sir for this webinar. I'm also very glad and thankful to all the students of SJCEM and participants from all other colleges present here for the valuable support, which is highly appreciated. And also thank you all for hoping the same response from your side for the future webinars. It's been a great pleasure. And finally, stay home, be safe, take care. And here I conclude my session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. Navin sir, we had a request. The students are like, can you please share the PPT that you have shown?
Sure, I'll send it to Shraddha. Yeah, you guys can do that.
Okay, because the students are asking, but if it's possible for you, it's just a request.
It's a very confidential document. I'll send it.
Yeah, that is it. So one question just came in right now. I hope that is fine. What is more important, front end or back end?
Both. Like तो फ्लिपकार्ट में से दबे भी ऐसे तो शॉपिंग नहीं करेगा ना, और सिर्फ फ्रंट एंड चलेगा तो भी बैक एंड ऑर्डर करेगा तो ऑर्डर बनना भी तो चाहिए. So both, and that's why like they hire both good engineers. You need to be good at one thing. You don't have to be good at both. Okay, and you have to be excellent in one thing. You don't have you don't have to be good in both. So focus on one stream.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That was the last question just came up, so I thought I'll just clear that out. So you can say what you feel about this.
Okay, yeah. Sir, please share your experience.
Oh, it was good. Thank you. I mean, to be honest, I didn't expect so many people to join. There were like 70 people. I was like, these but there was a lot of people. I hope I went a bit informal. That's my style. I hope I didn't offend anyone with my memes or anything. Thank you for letting me speak. This really helps me to improve myself too as a speaker. And that's what I'm trying to be eventually. This was great. This is really you guys made me go back in my past and think about all the things. So it was a bit nostalgic, but yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Navin, for such wonderful experience you shared with our students. And we are hoping such more webinars from you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. See you guys.
Shraddha ma'am, can we conclude the meet?
Yeah. Wait. Just a minute. All the participants, please fill this feedback which are shared in the chat box.
The feedback form shared by Aniket Singh. All the students kindly fill in the feedback form shared by Aniket Singh on the chat section.
Okay, Linda ma'am, you can stop the recording.
Okay, ma'am.
Also, students, it's a member, you stop the live streaming as well. Except ITSA members, all other participants can leave the meet. Thank you so much for joining us in this evening for this webinar. Thank you so much, one and all. ITSA member,